Brother and lads, welcome back to Cossy Podcast. My name is Cossy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in all parts of the world. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a brand new video. Arsenal won't be signing Moussa Diaby this summer because Aston Villa did hijack the deal. They went ahead of us. They tried to sign him for 35 million euros from Leverkusen. Their deal has also been hijacked. Arsenal are now number 3 in pecking order to sign Moussa Diaby this summer. There are still chances if Arsenal can go on to convince the player, but it looks like Alnasar are leading the rest to sign Moussa Diaby from Bayer Leverkusen. Around 45 million euros could do the deal, but Bayer Leverkusen are still asking for a fee in excess of 55 million euros. We're going to be diving into that, but also options that Arsenal have on the table, including Xavi Simons, including Samuel Chukwueze, Federico Chiesa, and Nico Williams in Spain. Hit the like button, subscribe to the podcast as well. It's a huge loss for me because I really like Moussa Diaby. If you know me and you know this channel for quite some time now, since last summer, he's one of the players I've looked at, I've followed, and I've always been very, very happy that Arsenal are always looking at him. But it looks like we are not going to sign him. Now, what's happening is actually very, very interesting. A couple of hours ago, Aston Villa went in with a 35 million euro bid, almost the same amount of money that Arsenal want to spend on a competition for Bukayo Saka. That bid was rejected by Bayer Leverkusen, and Aston Villa have been planning to bid again in the next hours. However, it looks like their bid has been blown proportionately out of the water. Alnasar from Saudi Arabia, which is actually very, very frightening. We'll talk about this later. Have gone on to bid 43 million euros to Bayer Leverkusen for Moussa Diaby. The player is open to joining any of the clubs that agrees a deal with Bayer Leverkusen. Of course, Leverkusen have not yet accepted. They are not accepting the 43 million euros. They think that if Al Nassr have come in with 43 million euros, there will be a possibility for them to increase their deal to around 55 million euros. The price to sign Moussa Diaby this summer is 55 million euros. That is roughly around 45 to 43 million pounds. Now, I think we all know that there will be a quality cover coming in for Saka. We will sign a quality cover for Saka. That is a point that has been highlighted by The Athletic. And again, it's a point that has been reiterated throughout this summer that Arsenal want to sign a right winger or someone that can actually give competition but also cover to Saka. The problem with this one here is that our priority has been Moussa Diaby. We wanted to sign Moussa Diaby. He was on top of the list. He ticked all the boxes in what Mikel Arteta wanted. Young, 23, 24, that is the age profile. And I think earlier on in the window, when we were talking about this from the likes of Freddie Paxton and from the likes of SR Collins, they confirmed that he's a player Arsenal looking at, given his age profile and also general profile as a player. So we looked at his age profile, which is 23, 24. We looked at his ability on the ball, left-footed, plays inverted for Bayer Leverkusen, right on the right-hand side with Jeremy Frimpong. But of course, he shifts into the inside of the pitch, just like Saka. So we literally had found our perfect match. But the problem was that Arsenal were planning to overall and upgrade our midfield. That was the priority. That was the first thing we were looking at. Can we upgrade our midfield? Can we overall our midfield? And hence, focusing on Rice, focusing on Havertz, and also, finding a quality cover for William Saliba, which actually affected us last summer. So there is one task for us to do. That is finding a backup for Saka. And I thought after all this, Arsenal are going to go on to sign Moussa Diaby. I had a feeling that after all this, coming down, Arsenal getting their players, Arsenal, selling a couple of players as well, maybe Balogun and Partey and all these others, we were always going to go back to Moussa Diaby because he's a very, very talented player. Like, he's one of those players that you don't even have to worry about your investment. You sign him for around 40 million euros, you're definitely guaranteed that, you will get your money back. Whether that is by him starting every single game and, competing with Saka on every single weekend, or just selling him in the future. You would definitely get above 60 million euros. If you signed him right now for 40 million euros and sold him 2 years later, you would get above 60 million euros in Moussa Diaby. He's one of the young, highly rated, elite wingers and elite ball players in the world. But Aston Villa, of course, we know what they are trying to do right now in this summer. They're trying to build a super team. They're trying to build a super strong team. And of course, Arsenal focusing on other areas, it meant that we're going to lose out on some players. Like Romeo Lavia right now, I think Liverpool are far much better ahead in terms of personal terms, talks with Southampton, and interest as well. So I think Liverpool are ahead of us in the Romeo Lavia deal. I think Aston Villa have been ahead of us in the Moussa Diaby deal, courtesy of the fact that we just never thought about it. We just never thought another club was gonna come pounce on the deal, especially Aston Villa. But now they're in there. Their bid has been sent in. I think that's during that stage, you can easily blow them out of the water. Arsenal can go 40 million euros, but then the problem has arrived. Some big guy from Alnasar has decided to hijack the deal for the second time. So now Arsenal need to beat Aston Villa, but then we also need to beat Alnasar. And what this creates a big problem. And probably this is not the channel where I need to speak about this. But Alnasar and Al Khaleji and Al Ittihad and all these other clubs, they do create a massive problem in the transfer market. Just imagine they will give him over 200,000 a week. They will offer him over 200,000 a week. So even if Arsenal managed to match the offer of Al Nassr, probably we pay 50 million euros for the services of the young lad, who actually is worth it. Arsenal would be planning to give him between 100 and probably 120,000 for the start. Al Nassr will give him 200,000 a week. Al Nassr will give him 300,000 a week if that is what is needed to get the deal done. So again, this is one where everything becomes complicated. It becomes very hard now to sign him. One, the bidding war of three players in the market means that there will be a hike in the price. Bayer Leverkusen will be sitting on the sides saying, Newcastle, what do you have to say? Al Nassr, what do you have to say? Aston Villa, are you raising your offer? And with clubs now knowing that Arsenal have the money, spending 100 million on Declan Rice, they know we have the money. They know we are in a much better financial position. They know Arsenal can spend the money, so they will not have any pity on us. They will either try to create a bidding war, which we will not actually entertain, or we lose out on the player. So I think we need now to move to other options. I don't see Arsenal splash 45 million euros on a player just to back up Saka. You look at Trossard, how much he cost. You look at Reece Nelson. He's a free player, right from the academy. So I think that is our strategy. One player ahead and then two other quality covers. I think with Saka, we will find another player and probably one from the academy, and that player will not be as expensive as 45 or 50 million euros. However, the reports are saying that Arsenal are looking at other options, which is actually positive and very good. Option number one is Xavi Simons. And this is where I kind of feel like we have neglected other roles and other needs in the market and focused on the midfield alone and the defensive frailties alone. I think it was very easy to convince Xavi Simons to join Arsenal. It was very, very easy to convince Xavi. One, he was at a point where PSG didn't have a manager. Do they have a manager? Someone let me know. Do PSG have a manager? I'm not sure. Then he was also at a point where PSV also didn't have a manager. Actually, his decision in his own words, he said, I will wait for PSV to get a new manager, and then I see what he's going to be doing and what his strategy is. And then I'll also wait for Paris Saint-Germain to get a manager and then get those, get that exclusivity, whether I'm going to be part of the team or not. That is where any team, any smart club would have swooped in for Xavi Simons. I think the profile we're looking for, that is Xavi Simons. Highly rated, will develop through the years. He's only going to get much better. Scored so many goals last campaign. His ability on the ball is genius. And you look at the academies, and you also look at the clubs where he has traveled. There is something about that kid. From Barcelona to PSG to PSV and now back to PSG. So recently, PSG have actually activated their buyback clause, which is around, as I hear, around 12 million euros or even less than that for Xavi Simons. So he's going to go back to PSG. However, there is an option to sell him this summer or to actually loan him out again. So if PSG do not let go of Mbappe, if Mbappe stays, and Neymar stays, that means that he won't be having that extra position to play in. That is Xavi Simons. It is highly likely that he will leave in this summer. I'm not saying he will go to Arsenal, but I think, again, it's another option that we can look at. We can try to get him on loan, just like we did with Martin Odegaard. We can try to get him out on loan, and then if he does well, if he performs very well at a very high level, we can definitely go all in the summer and sign him, like 40 million euros or 35 million euros. You know, he's one of those really talented players that I think whose prices are still, mediocre. He's not one of those talents that who have market prices that have actually blown through the roofs. This summer, you can get him for 20 million euros. Next summer, you can still get him for 40 million euros. Where the problem is going to be is if he goes to PSG next season and he blows his performances out of proportion and he becomes a much better player. There he will cost over 60 million euros. So if Arsenal want to get him on loan with an option to buy, I think that would be a nice shout. One, you don't commit to buying a player that you do not know whether he will be fitting the role you want him to play. But secondly, you will get a player on loan to cover for Saka. And we know with Saka, he will play 70 minutes, 80 minutes. You will take him off in the last 10 minutes of the game. Now, the problem and the question here is that do I think Simons wants to be on the bench, wants to be rotated with a player like Saka? I don't think. I think he wants to go to a club like Milan. He wants to go to a club where he's guaranteed football. And I'm so surprised that as the whole world has been looking at Adegula, we've actually not looked at Xavi Simons. Xavi Simons is one of the really proven young talents. Like Milan, go get him. Inter Milan, go get him. Aston Villa, go get him. There's so many clubs that I need of a progressive attacker, that profile, that age. But Xavi Simons, one we are looking at the moment. Next one is Nico Williams. Now, Nico Williams plays at Atletico Bilbao. One of the players that have actually started coming through the ranks together with Yeremy Pino. We're going to talk about Yeremy Pino because he's another option. Now, the problem with Nico Williams is he has exploded. And because he has exploded, his release clause is 50 million euros. I don't think Arsenal will get any sympathies with that release clause. I don't think we will have any sympathies whatsoever with that release clause. So it's either we pay the release clause or no deal. And I think Atletico Bilbao will try to do as much as they can to keep him. He's a sensational talent. At least to keep him for another season, renew his deal, and eventually go, hey guys, how about 60 million euros? How about 70 million euros? Because everyone is selling a player for 80 million euros and above. So they'll be looking at Nico Williams as one of the players that they can groom into superb, and then they can sell later. The one thing we know with the Spanish market is Atletico Madrid have the power to sign a player worth 70 million euros. Barca do as well, like pre-Barca, not post-Barca, and not current Barca. And then Real Madrid do as well. So I won't be very surprised if they try to keep him and try to sell him in the next summer or 2 seasons ahead for huge amounts of money. He's only 19-20 and he's already featured at the World Cup. He's special. Really special. And the other player at Villarreal is Yeremy Pino, but of course there is also Samuel Chukwueze. Now, let's start off with Yeremy Pino. Pino is sensational. He actually made his debut for Spain earlier than Nico Williams. I think he's had some kind of fixation at some point in time, but he will come good. Now, Yeremy Pino could cost a little bit less than Nico Williams. I think Pino would be around 40 million euros and Nico Williams would be around 50 million euros. But if you're looking for a player to give you quality competition for Saka, Pino is an interesting name to look at. He's an interesting player to look at. The other one, who's actually far more experienced, and I think he can come at Arsenal and be there, is Samuel Chukwueze. You know, Chukwueze is one of those players that he reminds me, or not really reminds me, but he's so full of the vibes of signs for Aston Villa, signs for West Ham. You understand? Like that overhyped, probably not overhyped, but the word is that really highly rated player that eventually ends up signing for West Ham. The Skamaka beat, right? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I see him end up at Tottenham, West Ham, Leicester, right? But I think if Arsenal still want quality cover, just cover, right? Just to suit the role of a quality cover for Saka, Chukwueze is another one. I don't think he will blow us out of proportion. He won't blow Saka out of proportion. Saka is going to be like Salah at Arsenal, playing every single minute, playing every single game. The next one is Federico Chiesa. Chiesa is a monster. Like, if you signed Chiesa, you must be willing to agree or to disagree that he's better than Saka. Because the truth is, Federico Chiesa, among wingers, on his best day, Saka is nowhere near. So, will Mikel Arteta go for Federico Chiesa knowing that there is a potential that he actually retards the growth of Saka? I don't think so. I really, really don't think so. But my recommendation on this list would be Samuel Chukwueze. Young, energetic, quick, intelligent, fast, and he will play that role. He will play that role of, second to Saka. We are going to play eight Champions League games, by the way, in group stages next season, but one. Not this season, not this coming season, but the season after this one. We're going to play 8 out instead of 6 in the group stages. So that means that Arsenal have 2 more games. We have 2 more games in the UEFA Champions League group stages, right? Then there will be a playoff to determine the last 16. Okay, so if Arsenal finish between 9th and 24th on the table in the new format, Arsenal will play another round of games. Then we'll play the round of 16. So we might have another 4 fixtures planned or unplanned join or added to our fixture list. I think Chukwueze would be a very, very important signing. He's the player that I think would cost less money, probably around 30 million euros would do the deal. And Mikel Arteta can turn him into anything he wishes.